Hi everybody, my name is Jeremy Siskind, and I am the author of books, Jazz Piano Fundamentals, books, Playing Solo Jazz Piano, book, all available on my website. And just a reminder, if you are a Spanish speaker, tengo un nuevo libro disponible en mi sitio web, Fundamentos del Jazz Piano. So if you prefer books in Spanish, check it out. It's on sale right now. All right, so today I want to talk about modal voicings beyond our traditional modal voicings. So let's do a little recap. I've made past videos and talked about this in the past, and I'm sure that you can learn this from other sources. When we talk about modal voices, there are kind of a few historically important ones that really kind of every pianist should know. Here, I don't need that staff paper. So we have our so what voicing. Just 5 notes, third on top, and then the next 4 notes are all organized in fourths. Okay. We've got quartal voicings, which are voicings organized all in fourths. And with quartal voicings, we can decide how many notes we want to have organized in fourths. It could be just 3 notes organized in fourths. It could be, up to 6 notes. Probably it's physically impossible, or at least very difficult to play more than that. So quartal voicings are organized all in fourths within the mode. Pentatonic voicings, really important, where we take every other note of the pentatonic scale. And then we could also include cluster voicings in this category. And I don't really have a formal definition of cluster voicings beyond voicings that principally use seconds or include a lot of seconds. You can hear Bill Evans use some of these kind of clustery voicings on his comping in So What, besides the So What voicings. So to me, a cluster voicing could have some other notes in it, but it's going to be principally seconds. All right, so those are 4 kind of standard modal voicings that I think are probably part of every jazz pianist's repertoire. But, and this was recently reinforced by a class I got to take with Taylor Eigsti at the Stanford Jazz Workshop, any set of intervals can become a modal voicing. What makes a modal voicing is that we move it within a mode. So if we're thinking about D Dorian, we could take kind of any shape we want and move it up and down. Right? Modal voicings are different than tonal voicings or traditional or type AB voicings because we're not really worried about having like the 3rd and the 7th in a certain place. Here, we're just worried about expressing the color of the mode in an interesting way that's going to draw the listener in. So I only have 2 rules as we form these modal voicings. The first rule is no doublings, okay? So no 2 Ds, no 2 Fs, no 2 B flats, only 1 of each pitch. And the second rule is no stacks of thirds. So this is not going to make a good modal voicing if we just stack D, F, A, C, for D minor. It's going to be a very closed kind of a sound in the voicing. Beyond that, I think we can turn anything into a modal voicing. And so I want to give you 3 exercises in finding different modal voicings quickly that adhere to my 2 rules. So the first one is something that you might have done already. Taylor talked about this in his masterclass, and something that I already did with my students, which is to basically choose a mode, choose a shape, and then play a scale with that shape in that mode. So I kind of just demonstrated that. So my shape could be a one-handed shape like this. So the shape here is a 4th on bottom and a 2nd on top. Now, remember that the actual exact quality of those intervals is going to change as we go up and down the mode. It'd still be a 4th and a 2nd, but it might be an augmented 4th and a minor 2nd, or it might be a perfect 4th and a major 2nd, right? So easy enough, D Dorian, we just have to go on the white keys. Then let's go to E flat Dorian, much harder. That really takes some thinking, that takes some practice. Not my first time playing in E flat Dorian the first time. I never would have been able to do that. And then we go up a half step. Okay. So that was E Dorian or D major, whichever you prefer. And then the same thing with the right hand. You want to practice those with the right hand. I definitely recommend practicing it with the metronome to keep yourself accountable. What can you do? Where are you at in terms of improving your abilities? So there's certainly a few different one-handed modal voicings that you could choose, right? It could be this, 3 notes organized in seconds. It could be that, 4 notes organized in seconds. It could be that, it could be just that, could be this, could be that, could be that, right? I don't know, I'd say there's probably 10 to 15 3 and 4 note voicings, maybe a little bit more with one hand. Now, we can also do the same workout with 2 hands, and here the possibilities really start to multiply. So remember our 2 rules: no doublings and no stacks of thirds. So here, let's see, we could choose 4, 5, 6, 7 notes. Once we surpass 7, we are gonna start having doubling. So I usually cut it off at 7. So we could start with something like this. Here I've got 2 notes in each hand. Recommend practicing these scales in multiple octaves just to save time. I'm just doing it in 1 octave because it's probably not that interesting to watch me play this scale up and down. I'll do this one in 2 octaves. Okay, so that's one possibility. That's only a 4 note voicing. How many different 4 note voicings could we come up with? So many. Here's another one. A 2nd on bottom, a 6th on top. Or let's see, even this. This is 2 thirds, 1 on bottom, 1 on top, but it's not a stack of thirds anyway, right? It's just 2 different thirds, 1 in the right hand, 1 in the left. Try some 5 note voicings. Okay, so this, is totally a great exercise to do. It gets you finding different intervals under your fingers within the same scale or mode, and it really allows you to get a little creative about what kind of voicings you're going to come up with within a mode. My second exercise, this is totally my own invention. And in fact, I'm not sure how well I'm going to be able to execute it. But let's start in D Dorian. Okay, so first thing you have to do with any of these exercises is choose the mode that you're going to do it. We're going to start with D Dorian. And what I'm going to do is I'm also going to choose a melody note here. So I'm going to choose A. And the goal is that every beat, I have to come up with a new voicing for this A. Okay, I still have my 2 rules: no doublings, no stacks of thirds. And so this is just going to help me come up with different shapes that don't have doublings. I would do this with a minimum of 5 note chords, and try to repeat yourself as little as possible. Kind of tricky, right? So I'm going to turn my metronome on really slow so that I don't embarrass myself too much. go even slower. Okay, so I'm going to start with a so what voicing. Here's a chordal voicing. So any note can be on bottom. I almost played a doubling. This one has 6 notes. Oh, I lose. I played an A on bottom. I should have played this maybe. Let's try it in E flat. E flat Dorian. 2, ready, and. This is hard. I'm gonna do it again. I got this. I gotta focus up. So you might be wondering, what am I learning there if I'm doing that exercise? To me, what you're learning is finding chords without doublings, which is harder than it seems if you're playing 5 or 6 notes. I try also to not repeat any note from one chord to the next. So for instance, if I'm starting with this voicing, I don't want my next voicing to have any of these notes on bottom. I don't want another F sharp. I don't want another E flat in the same register. So I could have then, this voicing. I have E flat and F sharp on bottom, but now I'm not repeating any notes. So that's, maybe a higher level goal. But you're learning to quickly find interesting voicings that don't have any repetitions. I almost asked any questions. I guess I'm teaching too much. If you have questions, of course, you could put them in the comments below. I always appreciate that. Okay, now, the next and final exercise of this video is very similar to this, but instead of keeping the same melody note, now we're going to go up the mode. Okay, so we're gonna, for D Dorian, we're gonna go up the mode, like we're playing the scale on top. And on bottom, we're gonna find a different voicing for each melody note. Now, we don't wanna just unlike the first exercise, we do not wanna take the same shape and just move it. Here we wanna find a brand new shape for each melody note, with our goals, of course, of no doubling, no stacked to thirds, and then trying not to repeat any of the notes from the previous voicing. Okay, so let's see if I can do it. I'm gonna actually walk you through it here. So I'm gonna start with D on top for D Dorian. Okay, I'm gonna do it without the metronome first. So I went from here to there, no repetitions. Pretty ugly voicing, but we'll live. That one's only 4 notes, but it's okay. Notice it's almost a stack of thirds. If I'd put the A in, it would be a stack of thirds. That's a so what voicing, so that's one I've definitely gotten in my vocabulary. I don't want to go back to that same one. How about this? I do find that it helps to kind of look visually at your hands to see which notes may or may not which keys are down, so you can avoid repeating that if you want to have that as a goal. It's almost like a crossword puzzle where you have to make sure it makes sense, that it fits together vertically, it doesn't have the doublings, and you also want to make sure it doesn't repeat a note across. You might be asking, why do you not want to repeat a note as you go from one to the other? So it's not the end of the world when you repeat a note, but generally when we switch voicings, we want to avoid that because we're thinking about every note of that voicing as a little melody, and it kind of causes a stutter in that melody if we repeat ourselves. It's pretty fine, it's pretty high level thinking to think that way, but we might as well try it. I think also technically, we want to be able to place each finger on a different note. Now, sometimes it might be, like for instance, and we're really getting in the weeds here. So let's think about if we had this 4-note voicing, and on the top, I'm going to move the D and F up to these 2 notes. And then on the bottom, I want to go So here, technically, I'm repeating the D in the treble clef, right? But here, it wouldn't actually be a problem because it's different voices, right? What we would think of as the alto voice is moving up to E. What we're thinking of the tenor voice is moving to D. And I'd probably use different fingering since I have 2 notes in each hand. So there's some wiggle room here to potentially repeat notes or not repeat notes. But your goal, and I'm going to probably mess this up, would be to play the scale with a metronome and find a new voicing each beat. Staying within that D Dorian mode. Right, or with an E flat Dorian makes it harder. I got 2 F sharps. All right, so those are my 3 little modal exercises. One is just playing a scale with parallel voicings going up and down. The second one is keeping the same melody note but changing out modal voicings underneath. And then the third one is this exercise of playing the mode and trying to have different modal voicings each time. Thank you for checking out the video. You guys know this already. If you enjoyed this, boy, are you going to love playing solo jazz piano. If you're not ready for what we just did, get ready for it with these 2 Jazz Piano Fundamentals books. And if you made it this far, let's comment with the word modality because we're talking about modes. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all soon.